All right. Hey, this is Dan here at Studio Blue. This is Pilates All Levels. Only props needed today. If you have a mini band or a regular TheraBand, you can use this in all of our side work today. And we'll be using it with some stuff on hands and knees. But if at any point you're like, nope, not today, not my thing, ditch it. You don't need it. As always, if there's any kind of bad pain that you're feeling, especially in your joints, neck, shoulders, knees, ankles, whatever it may be, don't push through any kind of bad pain. All that said, we're going to start on our hands and knees today. So fingers spread fairly wide with your thumbs relaxed, knees under the hips, hands under the shoulders. And just start by taking a couple deep breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth. And the back is just fairly neutral, so not overly rounded, not overly arched or extended. Start to feel the inner elbows slightly reaching forward, biceps and triceps supporting. And as you breathe in, really allow your stomach to expand. So really let it drop and open towards the floor. Think of a little bit more of like a yoga breath. And then as you exhale, feel your stomach lifting away from your t-shirt without rounding your spine. So just feel the waistline lift. And again, as you inhale, let the stomach expand. Start to breathe into the side of the ribs. And again, as you exhale, feel the waistline lifting. And one more like that. Inhale, breathe wide. And then as you exhale, feel the stomach lift. Start to round your spine. Curl the tail, let your chin drop, look towards your knees. And just hold here for a couple of breaths. Notice if there's more weight in one arm than the other. See if you can even it out. And feel not only the knees rooting down, but the tops of the shins, the tops of the feet. As you inhale, start to arc the spine. So chest opening, shoulders gliding down, tailbone lifts, eyes come forward. Again, holding this position, you still have that sense of lifting through your waistline while the upper spine is extending, middle spine, lower spine. On your next exhale, curl the tailbone first and start to round through the lower back, middle back, upper back. Allow your head to drop last. And again, on a breath, doesn't necessarily have to be an inhale, start to release the tailbone first and arc through low spine, middle spine, upper spine. Eyes eventually come forward. And one more like that, curling the tail, rounding, just one piece at a time, really trying to create some space and individual movement in between the vertebrae. The last one, articulating pelvis first, all the way through. And then starting with the head, so dropping the chin, rounding upper spine, middle spine, lower spine. And this one usually feels a little awkward, but letting the head start first, so the eyes start to come forward, shoulders drop, heart drops, and just snaking through your spine, eventually the tailbone lifts. Try that one more time. And then Jen, if you're listening downstairs, if you could turn up the music just the teeniest bit. Our remote is going haywire, so I don't have access to it today. And then find the place in the middle of both those extremes. So back to your neutral or your tabletop. And then as you exhale, look to the right, wag your tail to the right. Just a little bit of side bend. As you inhale, come through center and then look to the left and wag your tail to the left. And I want you to imagine, right, as you just kind of keep going from side to side, that you're in between two panes of glass. Really trying to find this kind of side bending motion rather than like a hip sway. And you're going to feel one side of the waist contracting while the other side starts to open. And you'll notice one shoulder is lifting a bit, one's dropping. That's fine. Even starting to look behind you a bit, starting to warm up the neck. Once you finish your left side, feet together, knees open, push back, child's pose. Your arms can be out in front of you. They can be underneath your head. And just take a couple deep breaths. Notice how does this feel in the beginning of the hour. We'll come back to it later and check out how it feels at the end of the hour. And as you breathe in, try not to breathe as much into your stomach, but start to breathe wide into the back of your ribs and into the side of the ribs. So as you inhale, notice if your stomach just wants to push onto the front of your thighs and see if you can direct it a little bit more into the back. It's going to help open up the little muscles in between the rib cage and really down the whole length of the spine. Just take one big breath in and out. And then roll yourself up, make your way onto your back. Knees bent, feet flat. Lovely. And then eventually find neutral. So not overly flat in the lower back, not overly arched, somewhere in the middle where you feel your lower abs stabilizing. Hands completely together, bring them behind the head. Elbows into your peripheral vision. Then keeping the head pretty heavy, let your chin drop slightly. And if you swallow, right, just swallow for a moment. Right where those swallow muscles are, where you're going to feel just a little bit of work in the front of the neck flexors. As you exhale, keep the head supported as you lift the chest to about the tips of the shoulder blades. And then inhale, lower the chest and the head down. So again, little nod of the chin, exhale, curl. Pretty minimal movement to the lower back and the pelvis. And then inhaling down. So take your time with this, right? And this is going to be kind of our go-to. You can always come back to this. Right? And I promise I'm not texting. There is access to the music through this phone. So keep going. Right? And just make sure at the top of your curl, your head isn't pulling out of your hands, right? So your head's still pretty heavy. If you notice your hips tensing a whole bunch, check in that your feet aren't too close to you, right? If you notice your lower back tensing a bit, make sure your feet aren't too far away from you. So just check in, right? Pelvis is still stable. And then the next time that you lift up, hold at the top of your lift, right? Feel your elbows are still wide, so your shoulder blades are wide as well. Take an inhale, and as you exhale, let your lower back imprint just a little bit. So feel the lower back flatten slightly, not from using your butt, but from using your lower abs. And then inhale, open back towards neutral. And again, as you exhale, right, just a little bit of imprint. And then inhale back to neutral. And you might feel your whole spine actually touch the floor. You might not, right? It's really just depends on your body. Just check in. It's not coming from the butt. It's not coming from the hips, but it is coming from your abs. Good. Last one like that. And then find your neutral, lower the chest and the head down. And then take a breath in, let the chin drop a little. As you exhale, curl head and chest back up. Feel the ribs drawing down, breastbone heavy. And this time as you inhale, reach the arms forward, palms facing one another. So feel that the reach of the arms is helping you curl up maybe just a little bit higher. And then on your next breath out, slowly, right, take the arms back, take up a little bit of space, support the head, and then on a breath, right, doesn't matter what kind, just slowly lower back down. So again, inhale at the bottom. Exhale, curl. Right, take a breath. Reach the arms forward. Yeah, check that you haven't overly tucked the pelvis. It's still fairly neutral. On your next breath out, don't lower. Try to stay up off the shoulders as the hands sweep around, right? And then on your next breath, right, any breath you want, lower down. So you can stay here or come into a small imprint, one leg at a time, floats up tabletop. Exhale, curl, head and chest lift, right? Reach the arms forward, keep exhaling at the top. On your next breath out, slowly sweep the hands around. So your abs have to work a little bit harder. And on your next breath, right, slowly lower the head and the chest. We'll just do a couple like this. So inhale at the bottom, exhale, nod, curl. Keep exhaling while you reach. Right, take a breath at the top, stay lifted. On your next breath out, slowly, right? The wider you go with your arms, the slower you go, the harder it is. On your next breath, take it down slowly. We'll do one more like this. So on your exhale, curl up. Keep exhaling as you reach. Inhale, pause. On your next breath out, slowly take the hands around. This time, stay lifted. Don't go anywhere. On your next breath out, tap your right heel towards the ground. Might touch, might not. Inhale, bring it back up. Exhale, left heel towards the floor. Again, might touch, might not. Only go so far that your back doesn't start to arc, right? So keep going with this. And then for Bailey, just tap a little closer to your body. So yeah, there you go. Yep. And then really think of curling the tail under a little bit. Yes, exactly. And then as you inhale, think of breathing into the back and the side of your ribs, right? And that's just to make sure that your middle back extensors aren't just kind of bracing or holding you here. Take one more to the left. Once you finish that left side, grab the back of your thighs. Just kind of wiggle out your upper body a little bit. Make sure the upper back is loose. Shoulders are relaxed. Take an inhale. On your next breath out, hands come back around to the head, right? Take an inhale again. Exhale, right leg can reach forward. So the feet are going to stay the same height. Front of the hip opens, waistline strong in. Inhale, bend back in. And then exhale, left leg just slides forward. Allow the hip to open, bend in. Now, if you want to peel back, you can at any point come back to heel taps, right? This can also be done with the head on the ground, right? The single leg reach or the heel tap, or hands behind the thighs as you're tapping. So lots of different variations on this, right? Yeah. Just finish off to your left. Once you finish the left, just lower down. Hug the knees in. Rock the hips a bit from side to side, allowing the pelvis and the lower back to relax. And then send the left leg all the way down to the ground. Flex the foot. And feel that heel rooting down into the ground. Make sure the leg isn't overly turned out or in. Just left heel really heavy. Right leg floats to tabletop. We're going to grab the back of the thigh and then push the thigh forward and use the leverage of your leg to lift you off your shoulders. So that leg might be a little bit farther forward than a true tabletop, and that's okay. Take a huge breath into your upper back. As you exhale, hands to the back of the head without lowering, right? And now look at your right knee. And as you exhale, just allow your left shoulder blade to lift a couple inches. So you're going to feel a pretty kind of small twist. Inhale back to center. And then same side, exhale, left shoulder just lifts a couple inches. Inhale back to center. So keep doing this. Think of left heel still rooting down and almost pulling towards your body slightly so the back of your hamstrings are active. And that's going to help keep the front of the hip open. Right, and this can also be done with the hands behind the thigh, right? Still lifting shoulder a couple inches. You just get a little bit more support and coming back down, right? And at any point, you can always grab on, reset, and then come back. Last one. And then lower all the way down. Hug the front of that leg into your body. Let the feet relax. And on an inhale, open the right arm, pull that right leg across the body for a gentle twist. So feel the back of the shoulder just softening to the ground and start to breathe into all that space between the rib cage and the pelvis. And we're really not forcing this. We're just breathing into it and allowing some of this rotation to happen. Think of the tailbone dropping a little bit so there is some length to your lower back, opening through the front of the chest, the whole side of the spine and the outer hip. As you exhale, keep that knee close to the body. Belly draws in, right leg to the ground, flex the foot, left leg up tabletop, grab the back of the thigh, and then push your thigh forward. Use that leverage to lift you off your shoulders. Right? So again, not a true tabletop. You'll probably be a little forward. Pull that right heel not only down into the ground, but towards your body slightly so the back of your hamstrings are active. And on an exhale, hands together behind the head. Look at your knee. And on your next breath, right shoulder just lifts a couple inches and then comes back to center. Keep that leverage point of the heel rooting down, hip rooting down as you twist. Big inhales. Big exhales. And your breath on this one is not only going to help turn your abs on more and your obliques on more, but it's going to help expand through the back of the ribs. Right? Hands can always go behind the thigh if you want more support. Behind the head, less support. Last 4. And just keep an eye on that knee. Last 3. Checking that the right leg isn't rolling out or in. It's still pretty neutral. Last two. And last one. Lower all the way down. Hug the front of the leg into the body. Relax the feet. And as this leg hugs in for a moment, feel that the hip's not hiking, but there's a sense of reaching down through your sit bone. So you're not hiking the hip, but rather folding in the hip joint. On an inhale, pull that leg over, turn the left palm to face up, keep some weight in the back of the shoulder. You might not fully touch the ground, that's okay. Just breathe into it. Breathing into all of that space, again, in between the rib cage and the pelvis. Keep a sense of your lower abs still on, tailbone curling down just slightly. And then keeping the knee pretty close to the body, come back through center. Draw both legs into your chest. And then float the legs up to tabletop. So knees and hips about 90 degrees, arms open to a T, palms face up. And just take a breath or so here and feel that as you breathe in, the back of the ribs are opening. As you breathe out, your full core is on, side, front. And on your next breath in, let the knees start to tilt, or rather rotate to the right. You're only going to go about halfway or so, about a 45-degree line away from the midline of the body. And then as you exhale, feel your left waistline helping to rotate you back to center. And then as you inhale, legs over to the left, try to keep the knees glued together so one leg isn't getting longer or shorter than the other. Still weight in the shoulder, exhale, coming back. So keep going with this. All right, if you want to peel it back, you can have your feet on the ground with your toes pointed and heels lifted. Knees are still together, and as you roll to one side, you're essentially keeping those feet glued. It's the same cues. It's the same work into the body, just a little bit less load. Right? One more each side. Again, if you're on the tighter side, this is going to work on opening you up. If you're on the more mobile side, it's going to help kind of work and teach you how to stay within your range. So how to reel it in. Last one to the left, whenever you get there, no rush. Shoulders nice and easy. Good, pull it in. Grab the back of your thighs, relax your feet. And then as you exhale, push the thighs into the hands. Use the leverage of your legs to help roll you up to seated. Nice. And then we're going to flex the feet to start. The feet are going to go fairly wide, and you might just kind of open and close the legs a couple times. Let the hips relax a little, right? So we're still going to grab the back of the thighs, and we're going to try to come right up on our sit bones. Shoulders are just nice and easy. And as we exhale, we're going to curl the tail and just rock back off the pelvis. Yeah, you should feel your waistline start to draw in, lower back's definitely rounding. Shoulders relax. Right? On your next breath out, arms can come forward. And I want you to think of kind of the same thing we were doing in our obliques. The heels are kind of digging down a little and pulling towards you. So the back of the thighs start to activate and the front of the hips start to let go a little. On your next breath out, can you start to roll down from this position? So rolling through the pelvis, lower back, middle back. Arms come back behind. Inhale, lift the arms, head and chest. And as you exhale, roll up, still thinking of the heels heavy as you roll. Round forward, 3 stacks it tall. Yep. And then again, curl, roll back. Right, hands can be behind for all of this or just part of it as you roll through. Right, if you get stuck on the way up, you can bring the thighs together, grab the back of one leg, and you can use, right, the leverage of the leg to help roll you up if you get a little bit stuck. And just one more like this, so rolling back, pelvis, low spine, middle spine, feet still heavy, right, abdominals, hip flexors, everything working together. Last one. Nice. Good. Restacking, sitting tall. So the legs can stay wide or they can come together for more challenge. We'll grab the back of the thighs, curl the tail and rock off just behind your sit bone. So the lower back is going to be rounded. The upper back just kind of has its natural curve. The eyes stay forward. Now on your next breath out, we're going to take the right arm forward. Right? And then inhale, just come back to the thigh, right? And then exhale, right? Waistline sets, left arm goes forward. and then bring it back. If you want to advance, next time, exhale, right hand behind the head. Press the head very gently into your hand, lengthening the neck, dropping the chin, and then arm goes forward. And then again, exhale, left arm, right, left hand rather behind the head, and bring it forward. Do we feel all the abs on this? Okay, cool. And it should be kind of everything working together, right? It's not just your six-pack abs, it's not just your obliques, it's everything, right? Everything in the core. So if you want to make this a little bit more fun, right, next time you're even, both arms can come forward, right? You might go a little lower, you might stay at the height you are. Exhale, right hand behind the head, very gently push back, right? I'm shaking with you. Inhale forward. Big exhale, left arm, easy in the shoulders, and forward. Yeah, just one more each side, right? Anything that doesn't have to work on this, try to relax it. And forward, last one to the left. Good. And forward, both shoulders stay easy. Take an inhale. Exhale, roll all the way down. Just go slow. Arms are going to rest by your side, feet walking towards you. And the feet are going to go fairly wide, about shoulder distance, a little bit of a turnout to start. And then as you exhale, curl your tailbone and slowly start to roll the hips to the sky. Feel the knees stretching over the center line of the feet. We've already done quite a bit of core work, so feel that the core is helping to keep the rib cage pretty heavy, right? We're not overly arched in the upper back. And if you feel the back of your glutes, right, feel that there's some tone here. So as we push into the heels, as we push into the ground, the back of the pelvis is on, the whole back side of the spine's on. On your next breath out, slowly roll down, right? And if there's any spaces or places in your spine that feel a little tight, take a little extra time or extra breath to roll down through them. Shoulders stay easy. And again, curl, right? Pelvis starts the motion, glutes start to kick in, hips start to open, knees reaching out over the centers of the feet. Last one, roll it down. So this one's nice if the hips or the thigh muscles are particularly tight or you want to offload your back a bit. Otherwise, next time you come down, bring the feet to hip bone distance, inner hip distance. And again, curl and roll up, slowly rolling. And as we lift past center, feel that it's the hips opening rather than the back overly arcing or shearing to lift. Right? Ribs still heavy at the top, waistline still in, back of the shoulders heavy, and roll it down. Checking that the knees aren't overly bowing open, that there's this energy of the thighs trying to touch, even though they won't. One more like this, curling. You might notice with the feet a little closer, the back of the hamstrings become more active. That's fine. Just make sure that the glutes are on. Next time you're up at the top, take the hands to the hips. Check that you're pretty even. Keep some weight in your left foot, left leg, and then exhale, the right leg can float tabletop. This can also be a heel lift with the toes still on the ground. We lower the heel or lower that full leg down, right? Feel the full weight of your foot and then left heel or left leg floats up. Rib line still in, inhale to lower. Exhale, switch. Nice, so keep going with this, right? You just check in that as you land, right, as you reset up on that landing foot, that you're fairly parallel and that there's weight through the first ball of the foot, last ball of the foot, and center of the heel, right? If you start to feel more tension building into your lower back muscles than your glutes, let the hips settle just a little bit closer to the floor and think of curling the tail under slightly and softening through the ribs. Right? If you want to add on to this, the next time the right leg floats tabletop, keep it there. And as you inhale, tap the heel down and inhale, lift up. And this same thing, right? If you want to stay on one side, the toes can still be on the ground as you just lift and lower the heel itself. So it doesn't have to be a big motion. We're just trying to put that work and endurance into the left leg, left glutes, hamstrings. And then settle that right leg down. Recheck in with your core. Left heel, or again, whole left leg can float up. And inhale, tap down, just staying on that side, making sure the hips are still square. We're not hiking, we're not twisting. Yep, last 3, 2, And last one, feel both feet heavy to the ground. As you exhale, roll down slowly, one vertebra at a time. Nicely done. And let the knees just simply fall to the right. Just a really simple knee sway. Arms can open a little bit. Now you can turn the palms to face up. As you exhale, use your waistline to bring you back. So it's the ribs, then the pelvis, then the knees that come back, and the knees over to the other side. So just really simple knee sway. And again, as you exhale, ribs, pelvis, knees back to center. And then we're gonna make our way eventually onto our side, right? Any side you want facing me. If you have a band and you wanna make all this work a little more intense, you can take it up and over your knees on your thighs. If you're using these small ones, try to keep it wide as you do this, right? If you're using like a long band, have your thighs together, right? Tie it fairly tight, it'll usually loosen up. I'm gonna demo this without the band today. My glutes are toast, so it's okay to not use the band, right? But if you want more glutes, definitely use it. So you're gonna come onto your side, good, facing me, right? So the bottom arm can be long. Uh-oh. Just adjust this mic. Knees are bent forward, heels are in line with the back of your sit bones. And your bottom palm can be up, it can be bent, you can use a pillow, but take the top hand onto the top hip to start and just allow this top hip to hike a little bit. So this is generally where we don't want to be. And then let that hip reach down, and you might even exaggerate it so the ribs really lift off the ground. And find the place in the middle. Not overly hiked, not overly lengthened, waistline in, top knee lifts. And just hold there. Now, some people like feet and toes together, you might stay there, or you might turn the top toes open with the knee. And I want you to feel that top heel pushing down into your bottom foot. And if you reach back and touch your bum, you should feel that the back of the glute is on. As you inhale, slowly lower down. Try not to lose the tension of the band if you're using one. Exhale, a little bit of belly, and then lift. Pause at the top. And then again, just slowly lower down. And again, a little bit of belly, and then lift. Yeah. Now we're using green bands here. They're kind of a medium weight. All right, you could use heavier. Only thing with heavier, just keep in mind that you still want your range of motion. If that band is so tight that you can only lift your knee like 2 inches, you have too much tension, right? You still want to get that full range. And I want you to think that as the knee, as the thigh is externally rotating, right, that movement's coming from the hip joint. And then think of the pelvis almost moving a little forward as you lift. Yeah. Yeah. And then for Julia, feel that top hip reach a little forward for me. Yeah, a little bit more. Just that top hip, a little bit more. Yes. Yeah. Yep. And then Natalia, as you lift, try to keep the heels together. Yeah, there you go. And just see if you feel a little bit more glute at the top of that with that contact. Yep. The last two, if you don't feel this, let me know. All right, everyone here is using bands though, so I think we all feel it. Next time you lift, hold at the top. Again, check that the pelvis isn't rolling back, but you're still stacked, right? Shoulders and hips are stacked. And then slowly lower down. And then we're gonna lift the top thigh, knee, and foot. The knee is gonna stay about 90 degrees. The foot's just fairly relaxed. And I'm gonna push back just a little bit, right? Either into the resistance of the band or without, but we just wanna allow the front of the hip to open a little. Keep the tension in the band if you're using one. As you exhale, rotate your thigh in. So essentially the foot goes towards the sky. Inhale back to center. All right, so again, exhale to rotate. If you're not using a band, just check that the knee isn't dropping down, but you're maintaining that hip height. And where you want to feel this is pretty deep into the side of the hip, into the side of the glutes, right? So this is going to work more of those internal rotators, right? Exhaling to rotate. Inhaling back. Again, check that your spine isn't overly arched, it's not overly rounded, right? You're just at your perfect neutral, whatever that may be. Last two, a little bit of waistline. Last one. And then lower down and just rub out the side of the hip. Nicely done. So still using the band if we have it, top leg goes long. The foot stays pretty relaxed and we lift up into the tension of the band or just the tension of gravity, right? Now actively point your foot and then let it just completely relax. So it's going to feel like you have a little bit of a droopy foot. And then still working the side of the glute, side of the hip, we're just going to lift up a couple inches, trying to maintain parallel and then drop down towards the floor. So as we exhale, setting, lifting, checking that the hip doesn't hike. There's that moment of pause, and then we're controlling it down against gravity or against the tension of the band. All right, so there's really three things happening: the lift component, the pause, and the control. Nice. Exhaling up. Yep. Inhaling down. Still breathing. Yep. Last two. And last one. Nice. Lower down, bring the knees together, feet together. You can just, again, rub out the side of the hip a bit. And then keeping the band, if you're using it in place, hands come together behind the head, elbows forward to start. As you inhale, top elbow lifts. As you exhale, start to rotate the head and the top arm and the upper spine back in space. And you might just go to here, right? So we're only going so far that we don't start to feel a lot of hip movement or lower back movement. Maybe start to go a little further, again, trying to keep this in the upper and middle spine for the most part. And then as you exhale, bringing everything back to center. So using your waistline to bring it back. And again, top arm lifts. Start to rotate on a breath out. And same thing here in terms of lower ribs. You're not overly lifted. You're not overly heavy. There's a sense of lift through the base of the ribs. Right? Not too big, not too small, just right. Once you find that twist, hold and breathe into it. And exhale, bring it back through center. Nicely done. Prop yourself up onto your bottom forearm. Yeah, again, you still have the band, right, if you're using it. Elbow is about under the shoulder, right? Top hand goes under the armpit. We're just gonna sink down a little bit to start. So there isn't really too much happening, right? Push into your forearm, lift, feel the armpit, the lower rib line, the lower waistline. Stay here or lift the hips. So the knees and feet stay pretty heavy. And the shoulders open, right? Shoulders are working, lower waistline's working, and lower glute line is working. Top arm can lift to the sky, right? And if you want to add on to this today, as you exhale, this top arm is going to reach down and it's going to reach a little bit underneath your bottom waistline. There's a sense of pushing into this bottom forearm, and then we come back through center. Right? And you might drop the hips down in between, or you might just keep them lifted. So as I exhale, I'm thinking of pushing into my bottom arm, my lower legs, as I round into the rib cage. So it's a ton of work in the shoulder and in the back of the shoulder blade. And in your obliques, you should feel definitely some waistline on this. Okay? And it's not a huge motion, but it should start to become a pretty big sensation, right? Exhaling to lift, rounding through the upper spine. There's a sense of right helium in the back of the ribs. Inhaling center. Last one. Collarbones still open. Back to center. Lower everything down. Press yourself up to seated. Right? And then switch sides. Nicely done. So starting how we were on the other side. So just make sure you're facing, or you're on your second side, right? You'll know pretty soon if you're not. Feet are in line with the back of the sit bones, knees are forward. Bottom arm long, or however you had it before. Ribs soft. Right? Top hand to the top hip. Let this hip hike up as you breathe in. Exhale, reach it down, and you can go a little bit past neutral so that the bottom ribs really lift, and then find the place that's in the middle. Lift the top knee up and open. You can separate the feet or keep them together, but feel that that top heel is pushing downward into your bottom foot, and see if that gives you a little bit more sensation to the back of the glute. As you inhale, lower down. If you're using a band, try not to lose the tension. Exhale, lift. Right. Inhale down. And exhale, lift. And think about what's happening here, right? So that glute max is helping to rotate the thigh out. All your deep hip muscles are working to stabilize the joint, right? And that bigger power muscle is working to actually move the thigh bone. Uh, and if you know you tend to be someone that tends to be maybe a little bit extended or like a rib popper like me, I always have to think of softening into this. If you tend to be maybe a little rounded in your posture, you might think of actually opening up a little bit or creating some length in your upper spine. And if you can find that perfect neutral in your body, these muscles should just turn on a little bit more effectively, a little bit easier, and we won't have to do as much. Right? Checking that the shoulders are still pretty easy. Yeah. Last two. And last one. And then lower down. Lift the top thigh, knee, and foot. So you're about hip height, right? Push that thigh back in space just a little bit. Allow the front of the hip to open a little bit. Knee stays about 90 degrees, foot fairly relaxed. And then as you exhale, rotate your thigh in. So that foot's going to go to the sky. And then as you inhale, come back through center. Now, as you do this, try to keep the tension in the band and try not to let the knee drop too far as you lift. Right? It's almost like someone was going to pick you up by that big toe as you rotate in and that thigh goes up, or the foot rather goes up, inhaling back. Good. Does everybody feel this one? Okay. And then for Nancy, just pushing back into that band just a little bit. Yeah, there you go. So the front of the hip opens a little bit more. Good. And then anything that doesn't have to work here, neck, jaw, shoulders, right, check in. Yeah. Last three. I promise you I already did this morning, so I worked them. Last two. Good. And last one. And then lower down. Rub out the side of the hip a little bit on that. Nice. Top leg will go long, right? If you're using the band, keep it. That leg lifts about hip height. So you're in the resistance of the band if you're using it. Otherwise, you're about hip height. Point your foot pretty actively to start. And then just allow it to relax, right? You still have the height of the leg. The foot's relaxed. Exhale, lift up just a couple inches into that resistance. Inhale, drop down towards the floor. And as you exhale, lift, right? And as this leg goes up, just check in that the hip isn't hiking, right? Good. Side of the glutes still working on this, right? And then later on in class, we'll do some stuff standing where these same muscles are going to be working, right? These abductors. Shoulders just easy. And again, there's a lift, a moment of pause, a control down. Last three. And two, and every once in a while, I just have to check that my foot isn't trying to overly tense or do the work. Last one. And rest everything down, knees together. You can rub out that outer hip a little bit. And then hands will come together behind the head, elbows start forward. As we inhale, that top arm is going to lift a little bit, or top elbow, and then the head and the spine start to rotate back. Hips are going to stay fairly square, right? And ribs, right? There's a sense of weight. I'm not overly pushing my ribs down to the ground. I'm not overly letting them lift or arc. A little bit of a sense of dropping down through the tail and finding some length in your lower back. As you exhale, use your waistline to bring you back. And again, inhaling elbow, exhaling to rotate. Once you're back there, just breathe. In through the nose, out through the mouth. This is a part of the back that can usually get pretty tight, especially if you've been doing a lot of computer work or sitting. On your next breath out, come back through center. Prop yourself up onto your bottom forearm. Top hand under the armpit. Sink down for a moment and just kind of see what this feels like, right? It's not too much going on. Push into that bottom arm, lift up through the ribs, and feel that there's work from the armpit all the way down the length of the spine. Okay? Shoulders are rolled back. As you exhale, top hip can lift. Yeah. And feel that your legs are still rooting down. Those bottom glute muscles are on, right? Top arm can lift if we're adding on. And as you exhale, I want you to think of pushing down through your limbs as you take this arm, this hand towards or under your bottom armpit. Inhale back to center. And then exhale to reach, add that little lift. So essentially the rib cage is moving. The shoulder blade on that bottom arm is widening. So really the waistline's working, the shoulder's working, the shoulder blade muscles are working. And you might notice one side might feel a little bit more coordinated than the other. One side might be stronger than the other. Totally normal. This can also be done with the hips on the ground, right? Last two. And back. Last one. And back. Allow the hips to lower. Nicely done. Come up to seated for a moment. You can, if you have a band, take that band away. We were done with that thing. Nicely done. All right. We did a lot of this last week too, so you should feel something similar probably in the next day or two. All right. Once that's off, come onto your stomach. Good. And we're just coming all the way down. And to find the setup on this, your legs can be as wide as you want for your lower back to feel pretty relaxed. So again, if your hips or legs or back are on the tighter side, take them a little wider than hip distance. And then your hands are going to be somewhere in front of your shoulders. And you're going to start to kind of pull your elbows back, just walk them back in space. And how far can you go before your elbows want to lift? And that's going to be your spot. Nose an inch off the ground, anchor the pubic bone, lift up through your lower abs. And then as you inhale, start to look forward. And as the head and the upper back start to peel up, feel the shoulder blades wrapping down and in. And we're only coming so high that those elbows don't lift for now. And then as you exhale, lengthen and lower. And allow your shoulders to relax at the bottom. You might find after one of these that you have to adjust your arms, right? If the shoulders feel pretty tight or pinchy, just take the hands a little wider. And just again, at your time, right? Head starts the motion. And then upper spine, middle spine starts to extend. Keep your waistline lifting. Keep your pubic bone heavy. A little bit of work through the glutes and the back to help stabilize. And bring it down. Yeah, shoulders relax at the bottom. So they have somewhere to go, right? As we start to come up, they're going to move again, a little down and in. There's a sense of my elbows pulling back slightly, my heart pulling forward. Head just coming along for the ride. And down. Now, if you want to take it a step further, right, the next time you peel up, you can see how high can you come up just using your spinal muscles, right? The arms aren't really going to help out too much here. If you want to go a little further, think of reaching through your fingertips. The arms start to extend, and we come up into that full swan, right? So my hands are still pretty heavy, and then I exhale and take it down slowly. Shoulders just melting out of the ears. Right? Again, reset. You might decide you want your arms a little wider on this one. It's okay. Peeling it up. Right? Breathing in, fingers, right? My hands stay heavy. My fingers are reaching forward. So the back of my arms start to turn on. Right? And there's a little bit of glute in the background, but not so much that we're creating this big tuck in the pelvis. We want that extension through lower, middle, and upper spine on this full version. Right? Abs are working throughout. They're on length, but they're still working. Last one. Try to keep the knees pretty heavy. Right? Pubic bone pretty heavy. Front of the hips, A-okay if they lift. At the top of whichever one you're doing, hold and breathe. Feel easy in the shoulders. Easy in the neck. On your next breath out, take it down. Yeah. Nice. Take the hands underneath the forehead. Bend the knees. Windshield wiper the feet from side to side. Allow your legs and your pelvis to rotate. And just let your shoulders be easy, right? They can fall forward. They can widen. All right. And then bring those legs back down to the ground. Maybe a little narrower if you want more challenge. Pubic bone heavy. The hands are going to stay where they're at. We roll the shoulders back. Float the head and the chest up as you exhale. My arms are going to stay pretty heavy. And there's a sense of pulling the hands towards your heart. The shoulder blades are dropping down. Now stay here, right? And you don't want to be too high. So make sure you still feel the base of your breastbones on the ground. So you might have to come down a little lower, just check. Low abs and glutes on. And then on your next breath out, maybe float the hands and the arms up to meet your head. You're going to feel that whole back line engage. And then on your next breath, everything goes down. On your inhale, arms stay heavy, float the head and the chest up. Again, really thinking more about length than height. On your next exhale, abs draw in, lower ribs draw in, maybe lift the arms, shoulders soften out of the ears. And on your next breath, everything comes down. Again, arms heavy to start. Float the head and the chest up. Doesn't have to be very far. Set the shoulders, set the base of your ribs, set your abs, set your glutes. Exhale, maybe the hands float up. Yes, on your next breath, lower everything down. Yep. Good. Last one like this. Arms heavy. Inhale, float the head and the chest. Good. On your next breath out, head and chest stays where it is. Arms lift, stay right there. And then on your next breath out from here, reach your arms out to a T. Palms are facing down and feel more of the middle of your breastbone on the ground. So again, you might have to come down just a touch. Keep those abs in. Inhale, hands come back to the side of your temple. My elbows are wide, shoulders are down. Exhale, arms reach to a T. Palms facing down, back of the shoulders, back of the shoulder blades working. Inhale, fingers back to the temple, arms bend. Exhale, waistline in as you reach. Okay. Inhale to bend, last one like this. Exhale to reach. And then inhale to bend, lower everything back down, bend the knees and windshield wiper the feet. Nicely done. Side to side, let the hips and the back relax. And then press yourself up onto hands and knees. And we're going to be towards the front edge of the mat. Now the peel back on this is you can stay on hands and knees. Otherwise, we're going to come onto the forearms. Elbows are under the shoulders. Your hands can be separated for more advanced, hands together if you want a little bit more support for your neck. Now we're going to narrow the knees slightly, so about hand distance. I'm wrapping my inner elbows in, I'm pushing my forearms down, and then my left leg is going to stretch back and up, and we're just going to pause. Now feel that the lower ribs, they're still drawing up and in. I'm rooting into my bottom leg, my hips are square. As I inhale, I'm going to take just that back leg down and in. It bends. And then exhale, I reach back and up using the back of the glute line and the hamstrings. Inhale to bend. And then exhale to reach and lift. Yep, you got it. And that leg on the ground, that right leg, it's still working. All those outer hip muscles, those outer glute muscles are still working to stabilize. And just let the head be a little relaxed, right? The angle of the neck is going to go down. It's following the same line as your upper back. Yep. The base of the ribs are lifting as you reach. If your shoulders if your shoulders start to get a bit tired, you can always come onto the hands, right? So that's going to offload the shoulders, but it will be a little harder to stabilize the lower back. So just keep that in mind. Eva, feel the hip shift to the left just a little. Yeah, there you go. Last two like this. And then Natalia, feel just a little length in your right waistline. Yeah, almost like you could reach that right sitting bone back. Exactly. Yep. Nice, nice, Raven. Last one. Should be feeling those glutes. Now the next time you reach out, hold. So you're out and up, just pause here. Now I'm resetting my shoulders. I'm going to flex my back foot. Turn the thigh open. So I'm turning my leg out. I'm going to start to reach my left leg out to the side, and I'm going to drop my foot down towards the floor. I'm not going to quite touch. And as I exhale, I'm going to lift, rotate back to center and where you started. So again, I flex the foot, I turn out, I start to reach out, try not to hike that hip. I come down towards the floor, and then I lift and rotate back to center. So it's working the glutes in a lot of different ways, a rotational way, and an abduction way, an extension way. And again, this can be done on hands. Shoulders wrapping down, forearms pushing into the ground. Last one like this. Turning out, opening out, dropping towards the floor, lifting back to center, and then lower down. Take a child's pose. Your knees can be together or apart. Together, you'll feel a little bit more spine stretch. Apart, you might feel a little bit more hip opener or hip stretch. Take a big breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. And then rise back up onto the forearms, right? Or the hands, whatever you're doing before. All right, knees will narrow, right? Forearms pushing down, inner elbows wrapping in, right leg. So opposite leg, reach it back and up and pause. So make sure that the hips are still square, right? Those lower floating ribs, they're lifting. And then as you inhale, that back leg will bend and come in. Exhale, reach out and up. And every time that you lift up, really feel that the center line, the back line of the glute is lifting the thigh, well, to allow the front of the hip to open. And if you start to feel some tension building in the neck, just check that it's fairly relaxed. You're looking down at that bottom knee. Checking that the bottom leg, that foot, it's not overly turned out, it's not overly turned in, and there's even weight through the shin. Good. Standing leg is working here as well. See if, Julia, see if hands and knees feel better. It might just take a little bit of pressure off that knee. Yeah. Does that feel any different? Yeah, just stay there for this one, that's fine. Toots. Okay, a couple more like this, and you can stay with this one, or, right, if you want to add on, the next time that you reach out and back, just pause. Right, we're flexing that top foot and then turning the thigh open from where the thigh meets the pelvis, letting that leg reach out, but allowing it to drop towards the ground. Trying not to go past hip height. We lift, rotate back to center. And again, we open, right? So I'm turning out, reaching out, dropping, lift, rotating back to center. At this point, right, both sides of the legs are working, both glutes are working. Inhaling down, exhaling out, around and up. Waistline stays long, shoulders stay down. Last two, still breathing. Last one. And once you finish that last one, back to center. Again, child's pose or cat stretch, right? If this full child's pose doesn't feel so good in the knees, A-okay to come up onto the hands. Take a full breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. Good. And then roll yourself up to kneeling. So we're going to come all the way up to kneeling. So make sure you have a little bit of space, right? So we're going to take our left leg out long, and we're just going to lean away from that leg a little bit. Now, if this doesn't feel good, I'll give you something different to do on this if the knee doesn't feel so hot, right? So just keep me posted. So your top arm is long, right? It's touching that top thigh. Your bottom hand is going to wrap around and it's going to grab onto the top kind of base of your ribs, right? And I'm leaning out a bit. I'm rooting down into my bottom leg, right? So side and back of the glutes are on. Lift the pubic bone a little bit and let your tailbone drop slightly. Yeah, exactly. So feel the base of the ribs are in. And then as you exhale, take just your top arm towards the sky, maybe overhead, and then bring that arm back down. So as your arm is lifting, I want you to feel some tone at the base of your ribs and the side of your ribs, right? So your obliques are having to work. Inhale back, right? The more you breathe on this, right, especially on that exhale, the more you're going to feel this. Now, if you want, you can try both arms, right? It's going to add a little more load. So if you want to advance, both arms lift and lower. And this could also be done standing, right? So I'm a little bit turned out. Top leg is long. I'm reaching. You won't have quite the same amount of load or work, but you still will get the side of the ribs and the side of the obliques on without the pressure on the knee. Last one. As that arm comes down, take your bottom arm to the floor, walk it out a little bit, and then allow your top leg to lift. Now this can be done on our side as well, right? We don't have to be on this top leg. And then just play around. If you walk your hand a little further away from your body, does that free up your top hip at all or your bottom hip at all, right? Shoulders are rolling down, lower waistline's lifted, right? Relax your top foot and think of where the thigh meets the pelvis. And then maybe right from that spot, maybe you lift a little higher through the side of the glute line. Shoulders easy, rib line in, we're still breathing. On your next breath, drop that leg to the ground, toes point forward towards me, top arm overhead for a side stretch. Let the head be heavy. Good. So the head, the whole spine, everything's in a side bend. And then just slowly come forward into child's pose. Any way you want to get there, take a breath. And then as you're ready, roll back up. Opposite leg reaches long. Right? So once you're here, the tendency is, right, going to want to be to bring your rib cage probably up or pretty tall. Lean away from that top leg. Your toes can be forward. I didn't mention this on the other side, but this leg could be turned out if this outer hip gets a little grippy, right? So we're leaning away. Make sure the hips aren't reaching back too far, but your pelvis is over that bottom knee. Glutes on, waistline's in, bottom hand, grab the base of your ribs. Take a big inhale. As you exhale, top arm lifts. Yeah, and then Nancy, switch arms for me. Yeah, there you go. Nice. Inhale down, and then exhale to lift. Yeah. So this is just as much about your glutes, right, as it is about your waistline. So feel that bottom leg is rooting down, waistline's drawing in as this top arm lifts. And it doesn't matter how high, right? Completely up to you. If you want to try both arms, A-okay. Just make sure that doesn't start to overload your lower back and it stays in the obliques. And these muscles are like any other muscle, right? They can get tired. So if you just did some crazy ab workout yesterday, right, your obliques, your abs might be a little tired. So it's always okay to peel back if you need to. All right, last two. Low waistline in. Good, last one. Right, both arms are just gonna lengthen. That bottom arm comes to the ground. Walk it out a good amount, right? And eventually that top leg will just start to lift, right? Again, this hand might be a little further away, right? It doesn't have to be right under the shoulder. It might go a little further out to offload the wrist. Shoulders soften, right? Relax the top foot, root into the bottom leg, and then maybe that top leg lifts just a little higher. Again, try to keep the foot pretty relaxed today. Shoulders easy, waistline in. Take one more breath. And then drop that foot to the floor. Take the top arm overhead and let the whole spine go into a side bend. Yep, I'm looking down a little bit. Shoulders are softening. And then on an exhale, stretch down into child's pose. Feet together, knees open, allowing the hips a little bit more space. And again, take a big breath. In and out. On your next breath out, we'll come up to standing any way you want to get there. So if you want a down dog or a little pedaling of feet to get there, totally okay. But eventually just coming up to standing. All right. So just a quick little bit of balance work and then we'll let you rock and roll. So if you want to challenge your balance, right, if you're on a mat, especially like a swishy one like we have here, you can stay on it. Less challenge, just step away from your mat. Right? You can use a wall, you can use a counter, you can use a chair. But I'm going to turn to the side, feet about inner hip bone distance apart, right? And legs straight but not locked. And I'm just going to bend my right leg with my toes still on the ground. I'm going to take my left hand to the side of my bum. And you really want to root into your left leg, right? And as you root into that leg, outer glutes are on. I'm just going to bend my right leg. And there should be, you know, maybe not should, but try for minimal movement in the hips and in the body. And do you feel that standing glute? And is it more than just the side of your glutes? Yes, but side of the glutes are on. Right leg lowers, right? Root into it. If you touch into that outer hip area, right? Left leg can bend, waistline in a little, spine's pretty tall, right? As you bend your left leg, right? These outer glute muscles have to do a little more work to keep you stable, right? This is the same thing we were doing on our side. And then lower, right? So my left leg's down, I'm rooting waistline in pretty tall, right leg bends. And on this one, if you look down, check that your first toe isn't trying to just grip and do all the work to hold you here, but the work is pretty even through the foot. And there's going to be some motion in your foot, your ankle, your lower leg. Allow that to happen, right? Shoulders easy. And then maybe, right, taking the hands into the hip creases and hinging into the left hip crease. I'm taking my right leg a little back, leaning slightly forward, right? Standing leg, make sure it's not locked. You can have a little bit of a bend. And then root into your standing leg and feel not just the side of your butt now, the whole thing working to bring you upright. So it's your hip extension. So again, as you inhale, waistline's in, I'm hinging into that left hip crease, right leg's just going a little bit back. Waistline stays in, shoulders stay easy. Root into that standing leg, bring it up. And then Bailey, just bend that left leg just a little. Yes, there you go. Yeah, and then see if you feel a little more glute as you hinge. Yeah, there you go. All right, there's that moment of pause and lift and then rest, right? And then shake that out. Do we all feel that? Sweet. All right, last side. So bending left leg, right? So I'm stabilizing on my right. All right, you can hold here, or if you want to add the motion, a little bit of a bend to that right leg. I start to reach left leg back. I'm hinging into that right hip crease, right? Core muscles are on, front, side, back. Root into that standing leg to bring you up. So again, not just side of the bum, but the whole thing is working. All the way upright, and then again, hinging. Right? Make sure the first toe isn't trying to do all your stability. It's evening out across the foot. Balls of the feet, arch of the foot working. Definitely lower leg muscles working. Yep. Still breathing. Last one. Right, shoulders easy. Good. And bring it up. Both feet heavy to the ground. Shake out the legs a bit. Feet and thighs hip distance or completely together if you want to challenge your balance. Right? Shake out the arms a bit. And then allow your chin to drop first. So as your chin drops, feel some length in the back of the neck, a little bit of work in the front of your neck muscles, and just slowly take it down. Unlock the knees just enough to where your hamstrings get a little bit of freedom. And then let your head and your arms hang heavy. And with every breath in that you take, feel some expansion into the back of the ribs, into all those spinal muscles. And as you breathe out, just let things get a little heavy, a little bit weighted. Yep. Yeah. Feel weight in your feet. And on your next breath out, bend the knees a little more, roll up, feeling that connection of your feet into the ground, up through the legs, up through the core. Head eventually comes up last. We'll end you there today. Nicely done. If you have any questions, let me know. For those of us here, sorry, there's no music today. The remote something's happened to the remote, so we'll figure that out. I'm just going to stop the recording. If you have any questions, let me know.